What is up, everyone? In today's video, I'm going to be going through my updated top 25 Dynasty Superflex rankings. So all the positions, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends all together in my top 25. If you guys have any fantasy questions, Dynasty trades, drop them down below. Also, let me know your thoughts on these rankings. We're going to be going through these players in tiers. So we're going to start off in tier 1. Going to be my top 2 quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Now, I understand, with the Stephon Diggs trade, Josh Allen's current group of weapons, it looks awful. There's no way around it. It is not a good group of weapons. It does not look like a strong offensive unit here, but we just cannot deny his fantasy ceiling and the consistency he's played at with that ceiling over the past few years. He's been a top 3 quarterback in points per game in each of the past 4 seasons. He's been the quarterback 1 in points per game in 3 of those 4. And, his offensive situation could turn around very quickly. Like, they could go out, hit on a first-round wide receiver, Dalton Kincaid takes a big jump, and all of a sudden he's got like a fine to plus offensive core. Now, obviously, that's like an optimistic view of it, but I don't think it's fair to just be like, oh, we're going to drop him because his weapons look bad right now. There are definitely ways for that to turn around. Maybe they make a trade, a T. Higgins, a Brandon Ayuk. Things could happen, so I still have Josh Allen as my number 1 overall quarterback. Just the ceiling he showcased, the consistency, I do like him here as my quarterback 1. And then my only other tier 1 player is going to be Patrick Mahomes. He is coming off kind of a down fantasy season, but he's been a quarterback 2 in points per game or better in 3 of his last 6 seasons. It also looks like his weapons are kind of on the come up here. Rashee Rice really broke out down the stretch. Remember, prior to Rashee Rice breaking out, their group of weapons was looking terrible. The receivers weren't doing anything. Kelsey looked like he was out of his prime, which, is probably true, but now you at least have some wide receiver help. They also added Hollywood Brown. Kelsey's still going to be in the mix. Maybe they also add a wide receiver in the draft. So I still do like Patrick Mahomes here as my quarterback 2. Now shifting into tier 2, it's just going to be quarterbacks again. CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. Now I think a lot of people are going to have CJ Stroud up there with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Maybe they even have him ahead of those guys. And I get it, right? I get the argument. He is going to have an insane group of weapons heading into 2024, and he's coming off a great season. He'll have Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz. I mean, that wide receiver room is crazy. You add in a solid pass-catching tight end. I think CJ Stroud's going to be great moving forward and pretty much throughout the rest of his career. I just don't know if CJ Stroud's going to be able to consistently hit high-ceiling fantasy seasons with his lack of rushing, right? Josh Allen's going to give you great production on the ground. Mahomes isn't like a Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, but he's going to give you more than CJ Stroud is. So that's kind of my concern, and that's why I have him leading tier 2 as opposed to being in tier 1. But it's also possible with the weapons he has, he puts together like a Tom Brady-esque season that we saw when he had Evans, Godwin, and Gronk and AB all playing together, even though they were kind of in and out of the lineup. But when he had that core, the only kind of question mark is, are they going to let him throw as much as they let Tom Brady throw? I don't know, but I think CJ Stroud is going to be a great fantasy option, but the lack of potential ceiling is just why I have him a tier below those other two. And then Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, both those guys have showcased very high upside ceilings due to their rushing production. Just slightly prefer Jalen Hurts because he is going to be 2 years younger than Lamar Jackson. Both have solid offensive cores around them. Now, pivoting into tier 3, we're going to have 3 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks. It's going to be Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and CeeDee Lamb. Now, some of you out there may wonder why Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson aren't up there in tier 2. It's kind of just the way that I value these players in Superflex. I'm going to want to get my quarterbacks early, kind of early and often, honestly. You'd like to lock down those 2 studs early on. So I just think the long-term value of a guy like CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson is going to be more important than a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, but I do understand if you view it differently. Starting off with Chase and Jefferson here, they're 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL, still haven't hit 25 years old. Jefferson has had the better fantasy production, but I do give Jamar Chase the edge just because he has that established quarterback in Joe Burrow. I'm confident Joe Burrow can support Jamar Chase to consistent, huge fantasy seasons. For Justin Jefferson, they might get J.J. McCarthy, they might get Drake May, but there's still going to be a question mark on whether that quarterback's actually going to hit. And Jefferson's going to put up great numbers no matter who's the quarterback. But when we're talking about like that elite upside, the 24 or 25 PPR points per game, you're going to need a quarterback to support you to get there. Then the back-to-back quarterbacks, Burrow and Justin Herbert. I think both these guys are top-tier real-life quarterbacks, but they don't quite have that rushing upside to be in tier 2. I give Burrow the slight edge over Justin Herbert because he has Jamar Chase attached to him and maybe T. Higgins. We don't really know at this point if he's going to get moved. For Justin Herbert, he currently has no one. I think just fantasy-wise, right, if you put these dudes on the same exact team, I probably would prefer Justin Herbert, but like I said, Burrow currently has the better weapons. And then CeeDee Lamb to close out this tier. Got to be in this tier after his wide receiver 1 finish last year. 100% belongs here. And like I said, if you do favor these like elite wide receivers, he's right in that mix with Chase, Jefferson. These guys are very, very close together in my rankings, which is why they're in the same tier. Now, pivoting into the first part of tier 4, just want to talk about these 3 straight quarterbacks. It's going to be Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, and Anthony Richardson. Pretty much just like pick your guy, pick the one you prefer in this area. Caleb Williams is obviously more of the unknown, but I would say he's the best quarterback prospect of the 3. He's also going to have a strong landing spot with the Bears. He's going to have some level of rushing production, but obviously like rookie quarterbacks or quarterback prospects in general are never a guarantee. They don't have an 100% hit rate. There's no like sure thing with the quarterback position, so that's kind of the risk, but the upside's definitely there. Then you have Kyler, who's going to be the most proven guy of these 3. He's finished as the quarterback 3 and quarterback 4 in points per game in 2020 and 2021. He was actually the quarterback 9 in points per game last year, despite coming off the ACL and having limited rushing production. But he's obviously going to be older than the other 2 at 26 years old. So with him already proving himself, he's going to be a little bit older, but you do have that kind of built-in security there. And then for Anthony Richardson, even though he entered the draft last year and was a rookie in 2023, he's actually going to be the youngest of these 3. He has not even turned 22 years old yet. And we have seen him in the NFL, but only for 4 games. So from a fantasy perspective in those 4 games, he was a monster. 18.2 points per game, which is good, but it's even crazier when you consider the fact that he played less than 40% of the snaps in 2 of those games. He left with injury 2 different times, which obviously is its own concern, but when he was on the field, he was a great fantasy asset. He's going to give you a huge rushing ceiling, has all the physical tools to be a really, really elite upside fantasy option. So I do like Anthony Richardson here in tier 4. And then the rest of tier 4, pivoting off the quarterback position, we're going to go Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Bijan Robinson, and Breece Hall. So these are the elite young non-quarterbacks. Puka, as a rookie, finishes the wide receiver 6 at 17.6 PPR points per game. That is absurd production as a rookie, especially considering the fact that he was a day 3 pick. Honestly, kind of some similarities here with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra definitely didn't have as great of a season, but he had the great finish to his rookie year, and people still seem to be kind of lower on him the next season because he was a day 3 pick. They didn't really know what to make. Was it fluky? Was it not? We can clearly tell now with Amon-Ra that it was not fluky. I don't think it's fluky with Puka Nacua, so I'm pretty much disregarding the day 3 pick thing. He was amazing as a rookie. He has Sean McVay. He has Matthew Stafford. He should be the wide receiver 1 there for a while. And then for Amon-Ra St. Brown, coming off a season where he averaged over 20 PPR points per game, he's made significant leaps from year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3. I think he's a great option at like the round 1-2 turn area. And then we're going to close out this tier 4 with back-to-back running backs, Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall. I think both these dudes are going to be high-end running back ones for a very long time, the foreseeable future. Both are still 22, so very young, and they both have the 3-down skill sets and the ability and size to handle a workhorse role, so really can't complain about those 2 running backs. And then the final tier here for my top 25, tier 5, we're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr., Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Malik Neighbors, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Garrett Wilson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. So just want to start off by talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, 2 of these future rookie wide receivers starting off this tier. I really do think they're so close together that landing spot's going to determine who I have higher. Like if one of them goes to the Chargers and the other one goes to the Giants, the one who goes to the Chargers is going to jump up. They're that close to me. Landing spot's going to decide it. I have Jordan Love after Marvin Harrison Jr., and he is a massive riser from last season. He finishes the quarterback 5 in points per game, threw for over 2,100 yards, 31 touchdowns, added some strong rushing production with 247 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. this offense was extremely young. Like, it's not like he was playing in some sort of like stacked offensive system. The offense was very young. They should continue to grow together. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, all very young pieces within this offense. So I think Jordan Love does belong here somewhere in round 2. And then Trevor Lawrence right behind him. I think both from a real-life perspective and a fantasy perspective, I think Trevor Lawrence is being undervalued. I feel like people, had this idea of him coming into the NFL where he was this insane prospect, like locked in number 1 pick in a quarterback class that people, thought was going to be great. Didn't necessarily pan out, but at the time it looked like a great quarterback class. And has he achieved the expectations of being like a generational prospect? No, but he's still been a very good NFL quarterback. He's had enough rushing production that could give him some strong upside when he hits a boom in the passing department. He's still only 24 years old. I think he can still improve. His offensive situation could improve in the future, and I would definitely feel confident taking him at the back end of round 2 in a startup draft. Then we're going back-to-back rookie quarterbacks after skipping over Malik Neighbors, who I already talked about. Now, neither of these quarterbacks feel super safe. They both have their red flags, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, but they're very likely going to get top 4 pick draft capital in this class, and they both have the tools to give you very high fantasy ceilings. For Drake May, he's very mobile, he can run, he also has very impressive arm talent, can make a ton of great plays. Maybe can't make the routine ones consistently, but he can definitely have those superhero plays. And then for Jaden Daniels, he just has an insane rushing ceiling. May not have the freakish arm talent, but he can give you some very solid rushing upside. So that's why I have those dudes here in the back end of the second round. And then closing it out with Garrett Wilson and Jahmyr Gibbs. For Garrett Wilson, I think he's going to be a wide receiver 1 this year with Rodgers back. Hasn't necessarily given you great fantasy production in year 1 and year 2, but he's really just been in a no-win situation on his offense. And while I do think he's going to be pretty good this season, it is tough to rank him any higher just because he probably doesn't have a long-term quarterback situation, with Rodgers probably only playing 1, 2, maybe 3 more seasons, but still someone who belongs here at the 2-3 turn. Then with Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's a great option here as well. The reason why I have him a little bit below Bijan and Brees, I know some people have him right in there. For me, just a little bit lower because I don't think he has that workhorse upside just based on his size. Also the fact that he's paired with David Montgomery, but he has an elite receiving ceiling. He's going to be attached to a very strong offense. I think this Lions team is going to be good for a while, so he can still deliver high-end running back 1 production, but that is why I have him just a little bit lower than Bijan and Brees Hall. But that's going to wrap it up for my top 25. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Who do you think should be higher? Who do you think should be lower? Let me know down below. But thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.